theyeshiva.net.
So in the middle of the Maimah Leisia Meshakela, V'akara B'artzecha, Mispa Yamecha Amale, in Torah Mishpatim, the last Maimah, Ayin Tes, column 1 on the bottom, or page 157. What's the Nekuda that we learned? 3 main points. There's Meshakela and Akara physically, but there's also Meshakela and Akara spiritually. Meshakela is somebody who chas v'shalom has child, but she's a Meshakela, a bereaved woman. Either the child is a miscarriage or a stillborn or a similar situation even after birth. Or God forbid, there's no kiyum, doesn't last. Akara, of course, means infertility. L'chatchila, not no pregnancy. What is it in Avodas Hashem? It says, Leisia Meshakela v'akara b'artzecha. Shakela is a situation where a person has a child, and a child represents, he said, a ben and a bas is ava and yira. Emotions are called children. Chachma bin adas are parents, and midas are the toldas, the children. You have a boy, a girl, but they're children. Bas tchila simen yafel abanim. But sometimes it's meshakela sahaltzachnesh. There's no endurance to it. As he says, a person can get inspired, but it's really a dimyon. It's a delusion. It's not a real thing. Okay. He says it's not ava v'yira mitim, it's demyonis shav. And how do you know it's demyonis shav? Demyonis shav means like illusions, demyonis. How do you know? He says ein like kiyum. It has no permanence, it has no endurance, it's only lefisha. That's called meshakela. Yoledes v'koveres, l'chayre is a baby's emotions, inspiration. A shreit, a tanzt, a loift, and this, a veint, and l'chayre, you're very inspired. But Anna Hashem Yeshiyana, he screams, l'chayre, there's a lot of inspiration. But really, deep down, it's an inyan of a dimyan. Sometimes there's akara. Akara means b'chlal. There can't be a child. As he says, Eine yeledis ava v'yira klal, there's b'chlal no birth. So the Balatanya explained 3 nekudas. One is b'artzecha. Leisia Meshakela v'akara b'artzecha. A person should never think that ava v'yira comes from himself. Ava and yira is a gift from Hashem. The problem is it's b'artzecha. It comes from his own eretz, from his own source. Really, it comes from Eretz Elyoina. As he explained, just like there's Eretz Tachtoina, there's Eretz Elyoina. The source of all growth, just like our earth is the source of all physical growth, which gives chiyus to a person, all vegetation and produce. There's an Eretz Elyoina from where all spiritual growth comes. What does spiritual growth mean? Spiritual nutrition. Ava and Yira. And a person ought to know that you shouldn't think he's going to hold on to his Ava v'yira. I found Ava, I found Yira, I found inspiration. So he says, Lo titzlach, it's not going to succeed. Rather, he has to know that it's me'eretz elyoin, it's not ba'artzecha. He touches, in other words, the Meshakela and Akara is coming because it's artzecha. You think it's coming from your own eretz. Real Ava v'yira is always a gift that comes from above. Number 2, he said, sometimes there's a metzias that a person doesn't even have a beis vlad, meaning there's no room for anything. Like Chalila, when somebody doesn't have a rechem, doesn't have a beis vlad, it says, the Gemara in Yevamis, afilu beis vlad ein lo. Kais Yeshua says you need to have a kais shel bracha, which receives the yayin ha-mesameach. But for that, the keli has to be open. Sometimes the keli is completely plugged and stuffed, and there's no openness in the keli. And what is it? It's the person who's completely obsessed within his own ani, within his own yeshus. And he says it's by every person. You can find it by businessmen, you can find it by yosh v'yoyel, people and sit and learn all day. But it's that ani that plugs that sense of ego or whatever it is a person is filled with. As he gives all the Gemayos, a person is always saying, I want this is good for me, this I can't. they're stuck in that place, so there's no clay reika. And just like a craftsman has to take a hammer and carve out, pound it until you carve it out, the person also needs to be able to take their own patters, their own hammer, and carve out the keli. As he puts it, he becomes a chalal, he becomes open. He should be ponoi. His space should be open. Kilu ayin ve'efes mamash. Then there's a third point. Koshel bracha tzarech hadachim b'fnim. Koshel bracha needs to be cleaned out, even if it's an open kos. You can't put in the yayin for birchas hamazon if it's not cleaned out. Hadachim b'fnim. You can have a kos, but it can be filled with all types of distractions and numbers and different things that are tempting, in order for a person to feel better about himself, which is a natural thing, that you become connected, very connected to all types of things, even if they're permissible. They could be permissible, but his entire heart and soul is attached to it, and it doesn't allow him to become a clay kibble. Just like a dirty cup, you can't put in wine until you wash it out, or as he puts it, pregnancy can only happen after the cleanliness from the blood, from the tumas damim. The same is true in every person's life. And that's the hadachim b'fnim. Now he goes weiter, the next paragraph. After a person created a clay kibble, a receptacle, a keli that's open, that's makabel, which is nekiya, it's clean. Umudachas, it's rinsed out. So you see, he's summing up the whole thing. There's already a keli, there's already a kibble. He knows that the Ava V'yida you have to be makabel. He knows that there has to be a keli. There's an open keli. And the keli is clean. Still one has to often find eitzes, find ways in his soul. There shouldn't be chas v'shalom Meshakela and akara. This is this eitzah now is hinted in the pasuk in Shmuel. In Shmuel Aleph, Perek Aleph, you have the story, the haftarah that we read on Rosh Hashanah. The famous story that there was a man named Elkanah, and he had two wives, right? Ula Pnina yash yiladim, one was Pnina, she had children. Ula Chana, ein yiladim. Chana didn't have children. And one year when they come to Shiloh, the Mishkan then, the sanctuary was in Shiloh, and Chana is not eating anything because she's very bitter, and Eli is trying to comfort her. And then Chana goes herself to the Mishkan, where Eli, the Kohen Gadol, was there. And the expression of the pasuk there is, in Shmuel Aleph, I think it's Perek Aleph, it says, V'hi moras nefesh, she was a bitter soul, she was very sad. V'tispalel Chana al Hashem, u'bachei sifka. Chana davened al Hashem, on Hashem, literally, and she wept excessively. And the continuation of the story, Eli chastised her. He thought she was drunk. She was a shikr. And she explained to him she was not drunk. And he blesses her. And ultimately she gives birth to the boy named Shmuel, who would become Shmuel Hanavi. The Mefarshim HaMedayik, it says, Vatispalel Chana al Hashem. So the Metzudas writes over there, it's like it says El. Al is like El. Instead of an Aleph, it says an Ayin. But obviously, that itself is meticulous. Usually you say Yadaven to Hashem, not on top of Hashem. It's Al Hashem. El Hashem, not Al Hashem. The Gemara in Brachas also speaks about this. The Gemara even says from Rebbe Lezer that he ticha dvarim klape mailer. She was very, very strong with Hashem, but like Al Hashem, she, as you would say in English, she really came down on him. That's what the Gemara says in Brachas. Earlier in Brachas, some of you learned it. The Flamed, Lamed Aleph, that domain, that area. But Latanya teaches that this Vatispalel Chana al Hashem is essential to the tefillah. It's Al Hashem, not El Hashem. Why? Ki hine Knesset Yisrael yesh la kama b'chinas v'shemas. Knesset Yisrael has many dimensions and therefore many names. B'chinas means different dimensions, different aspects, and therefore different names. There's no one name to describe Knesset Yisrael. Knesset Yisrael means all of the neshamas of Yidden together, down here and up there, even Lamaila. It has different names. When Knesset Yisrael is a state of giving birth, the name is Leah. Leah is Eim Abonim, the mother of children, Eim Abonim Smecha. From the matriarchs, from the Emayas, Leah was blessed with the most children, and she was grateful for it. She was thankful for it. When Knesset Yisrael is in a state of what's called Akara, meaning not giving birth to what? To Ava, to love, or Yir, or that's when she's called Chana. As the Pasuk says in Shmuel Aleph Perek Aleph, Chana has no children. So Chana is the name of Knesset Yisrael when there's a yearning for Ava and Yira, but she's an Akara. She's barren and fertile. So how does Chana do? Chana davens, but how does she daven? Al Hashem. And Hashem is spelled, we say Hashem, but it's Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's why he says Al Havaya, on top of Havaya. V'ha'inyin, ki hinei shem Havaya meira al shem shemahava sakel me'ayin liyesh. Shem Havaya represents, meira, it indicates the reality that he's Mahava. He brings in everything to existence, me'ayin from nothing, liyesh to something. That's what the Shem Havaya represents, as we learned in many Maimonim. Yud Kei Vav Kei. The Lashon Kodesh comes from the word Hoya or Yahava or Hoya, Hoiva, V'yeh. It's all the same concept called being, existence, because all being, all Hoya in the past, or Hoyoi, or Yiyah, or Hoiva, it's all being, existence. It is, isness, is-nes. All isness, all Kiyum, all Metzias, Mahavas, Hakol, that's Havaya, that's Shem Havaya. Now, Shem Havaya represents Hashem as the engine, the battery, the source, the DNA, the vitality, the Chiyus, and the source, the creation of all existence, Me'ayin Le'esh. For Shem Zen, therefore, this name is B'chal Olamas. It exists in every single world, because it's not Negeya which world. You have a higher world. You have the world called Atzilus. Atzilus is considered in Kabbalah, it's the highest world, the highest reality that exists. You have Bria, you have Yitzira, you have Asiya, Bia, Atzilus, Bria. Generally 4 worlds. She'ein chilik beinayim. There's no difference between them. He doesn't mean there's no difference between them. There wouldn't be a difference. They wouldn't be. He means ein chilik beinayim in the sense that you're not going to say Shem Havaya is in one world and Shem Havaya is not in another world. The difference is, it's different types of olamas. This you call a Bria, this you call a Yitzira. Bria means creation, Yitzira means formation, Asiya means action. Atzilus is beyond Bria. So that's the difference. Aval derech klal hinehu mechayes kulum havayis me'ayin liyesh. You're not going to say Shem Havaya exists in Bria, not in Yitzira not in Asiya, in Atzilus even not in Bria. Because the Nekuda of Shem Havaya is that he's Mahava Haka, that everything, like we say in davening, va'ata mechayes kulam. That's the expression. Va'ata, we say in Vayevorech David, right? In Psukkah de Zimra. Some of you already said it this morning. Mekenzen af panim. A Yid, before he says va'ata mechayes kulam, and after he says va'ata mechayes kulam, is a different person. I'm not joking. Va'ata mechayes kulam. So hinehu mechayes kulam. He gives life, chiyus, to all, and brings them into existence, me'ayin liyesh. There's, of course, 2 nekudas. There's mahava and there's mechaya. Mahava is to bring it into existence, from nothingness to something. Mechaya is the vitality of it. There's bringing something into existence, and then there's the ongoing life force that not only brings it into existence constantly, but also gives it its content, its functionality, its unique chemistry, and its life force, every nivra according to its chiyus. So Shem Havaya exists in all the olamas, because why? Wherever there is something, wherever there's mitzias, what is it? It's a manifestation of Havaya. Like we learned in the previous Maimah in Beshalach, the Maimah about Kriyas Yamsuf, Vayar Yisrael Sayod HaGdol Ashras Hashem b'Mitzrayim v'yiru amas Havaya v'yaminu b'Havaya, right? It's Havaya de l'Sata and Havaya de Leil, and he speaks what's Havaya de l'Sata. Havaya de l'Sata is the imprint of the divine in every olam according to what it is, but there's always the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey, which is like, so to speak, the DNA of all existence, from every perspective, from every world. And there's no difference between worlds. But here says, what is Spalul Chana al Havai. Chana davens al on top of Havai. So he continues to explain, Achamitis Shem Zeh, Eine Ele Legabe Ha'olamis, Ha'ne'etzolim, V'ha'nivroyim, V'ha'ne'tzorim, V'ha'nasim. Note the four expressions which correspond to the four worlds. The truth of this name is only applicable when you're speaking from the perspective of the worlds. Meaning, whether they're Ne'etzolim. Ne'etzolim is from the world Atzilus. Those that are in Atzilus. Netzel literally means emanated, like V'atzalti min haruach asher alech. It's not a creation. When Moshe in Ba'alois Hashem tells Moshe, appoint 70 people, V'atzalti min haruach asher alech. I will separate, I will emanate, like when you light one candle from another candle. So the other candle, it's not called a separate, Atzilus is not a separate creation, a Bria. It's an Atzilus, it's like, so to speak, a Gilui from a higher place. It's the way infinity is expressed in the world of Atzilus. And then you have Nivroyim, the worlds that are created. You have Neitzarim, they're formed, Nasim, they're made. Our world is considered Olam HaAsiyah, the world of Asiyah. So Legabe, all these worlds, you have this name. From the truth of this name is relevant and meaningful Legabe all these worlds. When you're speaking about Hashem Mamish himself, means himself, so this name is not applicable. Why not? The kula kamei kaloi chashav. It's an expression from the Zohar that's often brought in the Maimara. It's actually an expression from Daniel. It comes from Tanakh. Kula kamei kaloi chashav is an expression from the Sefer Daniel. But the Zohar brings it a lot, and then a lot of Maimarim. Literally translation, kula, everything, kamei, before him in his presence, kaloi chashav. Doesn't have a chashiv, it doesn't have separate significance. And they're not defined, they're not nitfas by him, they're not seen or grasped in a geder of mitzias as a reality. In other words, Shem Havayim, Legabi the Oilamis is everything. Because it's their source of this Havas. Legabi Hashem b'chvoideh ba'atzmai, it becomes topsy-turvy. Shem Havayim, he says, the name is not shaykh. Because kula, this whole thing that Shem Havaya creates, kaloi chashav, it's not toifas makim. Yeah. Ve'enim nitfosim etzle begeder mitzias klal. It's not defined as mitzias, as a begeder of mitzias. No, the Shem Havaya is the name, is the Havaya of mitzias. Since all the worlds, even the highest, is not nitfas begeder mitzias, so therefore the name is not applicable. Meshakela. What's prat ein nitfas etzle begeder mitzias? It's an expression. No, it exists. He just says it's not a geder of mitzias. It's kiloi chashav. Of course it exists. B'reish is bara lekimas hashemayim v'saretz. But b'reish is bara lekimas hashemayim v'saretz. Let's see a little more insight. Meshakela, like the pasuk says in Malachi, the prophet Malachi says, "Ani Hashem lo shonisi, ani Havaya lo shonisi." I Havaya have not changed. Or we say in the morning in davening, in Birchas HaShacha, the Karbonis, there's an expression, Atohu, after the Krishma that we say in the morning, right? Atohu, Koidim Shenivra Olam, Va'atohu, L'achar Shenivra Olam. What does that mean? It doesn't just mean you were always there. It's Atohu Koidim Shenivra Olam. It's the Zelbohu. It's the same one pre, is also after. That's what Lo Shanisi means. What do you mean you didn't change? Of course you changed. Before that there was no world, and now there's a world. It's a big change. You have a lot of company going on. There's a lot going on. Before everything was quiet and ruyik, and now it's a big change. What's Ani Havaya Lo Shanisi, or Atu Koidim Shenivra Olam, Atu L'achar Shenivra Olam. So he says, V'zel Mashakasa B'Pirkei Rebbe Lezer, Perek Gimel. There's an expression, Chazal, in Pirkei Rebbe Lezer, Achle Nivra Olam Haya HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shmoi B'Lvad. Pre-creation, that's the Lashon of Chazal, it was He Hashem, Ushmoi B'Lvad, and His name alone. What does it mean, He and His name alone? Pirush, Shmoi Levad. The Lashon over there is Shmoi Levad. Shmoi Einoi Begeder Mahava Meshakela. Over there, the Shem Havaya, is not something that's in the geder of bringing into existence or giving chiyus. Elohu levad, it's alone. Ke'inyan, like we say in davening, also from Tehillim, Yahalelu Hashem Hashem, ki nizgov shmoi levadai. They use that same expression, Hayahu Shmai Belvad, Nizgav Shmai Levad, his name is exalted alone. V'nizgav, exalted, Humayra ala Flaga Yiseda. It represents a unique haflaga, unique exaltedness, or remoteness, or aloofness. Shul muflag harbe me'elam esanetzal. That he's infinitely above even the highest worlds, which are the worlds of Netzalim. As the pasuk continues, Yahalu Hashem ki nizgav shmai levadai, hoidai al eretz v'shamayim. Raki hoidai al eretz v'shamayim. Pirush shenimshach hoid v'ziv mishmai l'chayis eretz v'shamayim. Even Shmai is levadai, is completely beyond any olam, even Atzilus. But there's a world. He says hoidai. Hoidai is a hoid, is like a ray of light, a glimmer of light. Ziv, like Ziv Hashemesh. Hoidai is like a glimmer of light. So hoidai, there's a hoid v'ziv that comes from his name to give chiyus to Eretz v'shamayim, which turns them into a metzius. So the real inyan of Shem Havaya is so significant from the perspective of the world. Because all Eretz v'shamayim, the highest till the lowest, its entire Havos comes from Havaya. Its entire chiyus comes from Havaya. But from Hashem's perspective, nothing. The whole inyan is Keloi Chashav. It's not Taifas Makim. As he says, it's not Begeder Metzius. In other words, when you ask a person, what's Metzius? The word Metzius is a very important word. It comes from the word Monsey. What does Monsey mean? Monsey means it exists. Monsey means Siddha. Faranenkeit in Yiddish. Metzius is a Metzius. You say it's a Metzius. It's not a Metzius. It's a reality. Yeah. Oh, very good. So what's Pshat a Metzius? So you say Mekenes on top. You could go to the bank with it. It's a Metzius, yeah. Mekenes on top.
Saddam Metzius in cup.
Saddam Metzius in cup or not? That's a good cup question. That's a good cup question. If there's a Metzius in the cup. The Rambam's Lashon, when the Rambam opens up his Yad HaChazak, his whole Sefer Mishnah Torah, the first halach is Yisoid HaYisoides v'Amud HaChachmas Leida Sheyesha Motzei Rishon v'Hu Mamtzi Chol Nimtza v'Chol HaNimtzoyim M'Shamayim V'Aretz M'Asher B'Neim LeNimtzu Elam HaMitas Imotza. You hear how many times he says the word Metzius? The foundation of everything is to know there's a Motzei Rishon, meaning there's a first Motzei, or there's a primary Motzei. The first, an essential matzah, yeah. V'hu mamtzi kol nimtz, and he brings into mitzias, every nimtza, every existence. V'chol nimtzayim, and anything that's nimtza, shamayim, eretz, and what's in between, eloi nimtzu elam amitas imotz. But the question is, how do you define mitzias? So we all know, even in our own lives, that there's many different ways you can define mitzias. There's the way I could define Metzius, things I can touch. If I could touch it, it's a Metzius. Take a dog, or a horse, or any animal, or a deer, and you don't want them to eat the food in your courtyard or in your garden. So put up a sign. Sign says, Lashem Aretzim Loya, says, my garden, I need this. I ask you, B'chol Lashon Shel Bakasha, yeah? Do not come into my house. Don't come into my courtyard here, man. Don't eat up all my trees and all my grass. I need it, yeah? And by the way, you bring a few psukim to show that you're not allowed to do it, yeah? How much will it affect the deer? You could try it. I get the Kal V'Chaim. The Hest. Madache doesn't help with people, so he wanted to help with the deer. Yeah. The answer is, so you'll get upset at the horse. What are you getting upset? It's not a Metzius. You want that the horse should understand? There's only one way. Other azetz, other offense. Why? The fence, I versteht. It's a Metzius. So you say, what do you mean? No. But now think about it the other way. Think about a person who's deeply moral, deeply spiritually sensitive. What's a bigger Metzius? The fence or the pasuk? What's a great offense? What's a bigger metzius? How could it be? The intangible becomes a more important metzius. Why? Because metzius is relative to where you are in the world. What's a metzius for a turtle? What's metzius? There's also metzius. For a mosquito, there's metzius. For every nivra has metzius. From a beetle to a wasp, from a bug to a mosquito, from an ant to a bee, every insect has its definition of metzius. Sometimes metzius is defined literally. You ever watch a groundhog digging out its 6 tunnels? Yeah, it's very busy. Yeah, you look at it and it's like you're looking. You take pictures. That's metzius. So we look at a groundhog, but even by a person, what's metzius? Yeah. You come to your little child, 2 years old, 3 years old. You give him 2 things: a check. The check is $100,000. Yeah, or a little fire engine truck with a light on it and remote control, or an ice cream from one of the stores here. No, he'll take nem dein check und geh Gesundheit, right? Why? Of course it's there, but you can't call that a davar chashuv. The ice cream is a metzius. When a person gets older, you still play with fire trucks, remote control. Once in a while, okay. When the inner child comes out, yeah, our fire trucks expand. We also play with toys. They're just different types of toys. Suddenly $100,000 check is a psychashtical toy. It's all based on where the person's reality is. What's nothing in one reality is everything in another reality, and everything changes. You take a person who's a tremendous giant, what was a metzius, to one is completely not, it's there, but that's not the taich metzius. It doesn't occupy space in his mind. And this is true on a physical level, on an emotional level, a moral level, a spiritual level. Yeah. You have a chacham gadol, sometimes they're great, great minds, yeah? What you can touch, yeah. So you have some great physicists or scientists. When they really train themselves, they look at the physical. This is for babies. This is fire trucks. Even you take a microscope, yeah, you see it's a whole other metzius, And then if you go even that which a microscope can't grasp, levels that even the microscope can't grasp, the higher you go, that's much more metzius than what you could grasp. On the other hand, it's the other way around. Because you can grasp it, it already means it's not a real metzius. It means it's metzius the way it's filtered so that my brain, with all of its limitations, can say it's a reality. So the more you call it a metzius, the less he calls it a metzius. The less you call a metzius, he calls more metzius. I'm making myself clear? No, ich verstehe nicht, was ich sage. What are you thinking? Human soul is a good example.
You have a body, everything is there, and the soul is not there.
Exactly. And you can't touch it. You can't touch it. Echt. But what somebody who relates to Ruchnius, what's more metzius? What's more metzius? Ruchnius or Gashmis? You can't even compare. The Gashmis is the way Ruchnius is manifested in a form that's relatable to the finite perception that we have. Somebody say, well, is electricity a metzius? For thousands of years, it was not a metzius. Electricity was a metzius. It was a joke. Suddenly, when they discovered electricity, how much does it affect? How much does it affect human society? Germs, very good. Is germs a metzius? For thousands of years, nobody ever heard of it. People were dying in the streets, black plagues. Yeah, the Jews were poisoning the wells, probably. They were looking for the demon, for the monster that's walking around, the robot that's walking around, chopping off heads. Goes, I'm Asber, that you can have something invisible, and it's much more powerful than anything visible. The more we progress, Netilas Yadayim. I know, that was the problem. The Jews were very into hygiene from early on, because the concept of Netilas Yadayim, especially the Chachamim were Mesaken, Netilas Yadayim before bread, first Truma and then Chul, and in the morning washing hands, and before davening washing hands. So the whole culture was one of washing hands. So they blamed the Jews because of it. Because of the concept of Tum and Tara. The whole Tum and Tara is not visible. Yeah. So we could all understand this on different levels, that what's on from one perception, a level of Metzias, when you go higher, what was yesterday a Metzias is not even a gather of Metzias. It's like, okay, it's a very poor definition of Metzias. You want to speak to the behemoth, you have to have you'll take a nail and tell the nail, Herzachai, Sukkot is coming in a few hours. I need a sukkah. Do me a favor, go into the wall, okay? And it's a big mitzvah. You know, what is the nail going to tell you? The nail knows one language. It's called a hammer. Okay, so some people use the same language with other people. Right? They think, how do I get you to do something? You take a hammer. But the truth is, for the nail, that's Metzias. Very good. You heard, if you only have a hammer in your toolbox, everything appears as a nail. The more developed a person is, you understand, persuasion will be much more powerful than a hammer. Real people, great people, you can't force them to do things with hammers. But if you can show it to me, it's much more powerful. Why? It's words, ideas. Depends where you are in reality. Everything depends where you are in reality. And within ideas itself, it's infinite. Deeper and deeper and deeper. For a Chacham Gadol, a Svara is the most powerful Metzias. A Davar Gashmi, a physical thing, it's a Metzias. We know today, even in physics, the more physical it is, the less Metzias it is. Meaning, and it's Pashut real. It's not like, when he writes this here, you have to believe him. But today it's mamish, from a secular perspective, it's that way. The more Metzias it is in Gashmias, it actually means it's less Metzias. It means it was filtered in a way and compressed in a way that a person with their limited tools and mechanism can grasp it. And the more you can liberate yourself from that, the more you know you're touching truths of physics. You're touching truths of reality, because you're not being confined by the definitions of Metzias the way they're captured by your limited tools. And that's what they keep on searching for. What's the deeper reality, the deeper. What's the string theory? What are you looking for? Was willst du? A tish is a tish. Because a tish is nishkin tish. From a more superficial place, a table is a table. We're not arguing with this. And you could sell it as a table and it'll cost whatever it costs, $7, $12. And as long as we all agree that it's a table, the market will continue to go. That's fine. That's how the world works. But in Teichen, Metzias is always changing. And it's true on every single level. Take a piece of Shabbos is coming, so it's appropriate to talk about the mitzvah of Shabbos, which is eating. Take a piece of kugel and kishka. Is kugel a Metzias? So for me, it's a Metzias. For me. Especially if it's hot. Especially if it's Yerushalmi. And especially if they dip the Yerushalmim's kugel is different because it comes from the shemen of Chanukah. That oil was never finished. And you could see it in the kugel that the oil is endless. It has to come with a pickle. See? So that's for some Metzias. Now, when my wife, God bless her, looks at that piece of kugel, you know what she says? She already gets nauseous from looking at it. When the thought that somebody's going to eat it is like the thought that you're going to eat glass. Can you eat glass? Eichametzias, but not for eating. Yeah. Why? It depends. Somebody whose body is a little more crass. Yeah. This is the real thing. Fakert. The more poisonous, the more foodie, the more holy, the more Jewish. Right? Somebody's body's a little more sensitive. This is poison and garbage. The malach hamavos b'chvayde ba'atzmai sitting here, yeah, in the name of sugar and then fats and carbs and oil and the temptation. It doesn't mean kugel is a metzias. Maybe it's the people who put the hechsha also like kugel a little bit. I don't know.
Shabbos. You can't eat it in the week.
Reb Shalom says it's only for Shabbos. On Shabbos, there's no calories and there's no cholesterol. So Shabbos is cholesterol free. He says, "Tak in the middle of the week, it's treif." Yeah. Now, let's say I would look at food and I wouldn't see the food. I would see the nutrients inside the food. I would look at the food and see what it does for my body. Or I would look at a cigarette and I would see the pnimi. It's not the chitzainis. Yeah. So everybody knows somebody gives you poison, chas v'shalom, and it's sugar coated. But you could see the poison. It's not pshat you have a whole fight, should I eat it, should I not eat it, and then you decide not to eat it. You realize that what in one world is tempting, suddenly temptation is gone. You know when somebody, chas v'shalom, is very sick, very, very sick. The food that yesterday was so exciting, now you look at it and you want to vomit. What happened? What happened? Same physical reality, but you're in a different place. And the same is true, Lamaila. I'm giving very simple mashalim, but it goes much, much, much deeper. So the Balatanya says, Asiya has one type of metzias. Yitzira has another type of metzias. Bria has another type of metzias. Atzilus has another type of metzias. Atzilus sees in everything oneness, Dvar Hashem. We don't. Asiya, we see the world from a physical, external point of view. But every world you put on different glasses, microscopic glasses. What are the microscopic glasses? There's scientifically microscopic glasses, and then there's spiritually microscopic glasses. But you could look at the same reality and see something completely different.
What's the point that a $5 million check looks like the Yerushalmi Kudus with guides and died?
Yeah. For some people, a $5 million check, listen, a $5 million check, you could do wonderful things with it. So I don't know if it's the best example, but there may be the $5 million aspect of it. Yeah. Not that it doesn't exist. Of course it exists. The table exists. But everybody understands to the legabe a higher level of mitzias, yeah, like how do the fence. All the fences in the world, legabe the posuk and chumash, the posuk is much more powerful. You touch somebody in their soul, and you persuade them, it's more powerful than every hammer in the world. Why? Because the metzias of justice for one person or truth for one person is a much deeper level of metzias. And this is how life develops. And it's very hard because when I'm in a lower state of reality, if I'm a grasshopper or a turtle, they once asked a turtle that's been around for many years, maybe you could tell us about the Big Bang and all that, and the last 15 billion years. It says it all happened so fast. Okay. The turtle gate, Shabbos noch and Shalom. There's always Shabbos like a gate. He has time, he has patience. But it's a metzias. Toiv Hashem lakol v'racham aval kol masav means that every perception of metzias exists in Shem Havaya. If it wouldn't exist in Shem Havaya, there wouldn't be such a perception of metzias. And therefore it's all legitimate. For that child, the fire engine truck with the remote control, that is the beginning and end of reality. You have to respect it. That's metzias. Ultimately, there's no growth because you still want your fire engine. That's what a lot of us are still looking for. Rosebud. It's a sled.
There's a Rabbi who always had milk in the refrigerator because he would want it in his coffee. And people would take a little bit, they would also take it. And he wouldn't have it in the day when he needed it. So put a little sign on it, do not take, and his name on it. They just took a little because they're in coffee.
Yeah.
So he put it in a bag and he said, not Chalav Yisrael. All the stuff nobody took.
Yeah. It's not milk anymore. It's not milk.
What does it have to do with a person on Benoni or inside or what does that have to do with?
It's how I really define Metzius. Yeah. It's really what you see as reality that means so much to you. Is it just what I touch with my hands, or that maybe which I can't touch with my hands? So the truth is, on one level, if you can't touch it with your hands, what makes it a Metzius? You feel that way? Big deal. You think that way. Like he said, it's in your head. As they say, it's in your head. It's not reality. And there's a truth in it. It's all in your head. It's not reality. Reality means I can see it, I can touch it, I can taste it, I can hear it, I can smell it. Even in that itself. What about the whistles that a dog can hear? I can't hear it. Is it a Metzius? What about the colors? My eyes can't see them. Are they a Metzius? We all know today to say it's not a Metzius is a mockery. Of course it's a Metzius. It's a Metzius that I don't have the kalim to grasp because the frequencies of light absorbed by my retina and interpreted by my brain neurons are not being detected and interpreted. So what do I say? Doesn't exist. Of course it doesn't exist. By me, it doesn't exist. Why? Of course it doesn't. There are colors that we cannot grasp. Birds can grasp. They see those colors. We can't. So we say they don't exist. Okay, because now we know about them. Because our tools have been expanding to know the limits of our tools. Yeah. The more your Metzius, the Metzius expands, yeah. So it's not pshat that Gashmis doesn't exist. But not as separate. Right? So the older we get, we all know this. What's not a Metzius as a child becomes a very significant Metzius as an adult. Ideas, considerations, even expensive toys that for the child don't mean anything. And on the contrary, that which was so precious to me as a child, your teddy bear or your doll, right? And if I give you now a teddy bear as a gift, actually some of you would appreciate it if it was taken away from you as a child, right? I'm saying if you never had one. Not that it's not of course it's a Metzius. But what does it really mean as Metzius? Reality is always evolving. And what's in one person's mind, reality, is for the other person's mind, not reality, and conversely. But here's the trick. The key is that the higher my definitions of reality expand, the old definitions of reality diminish. They diminish to the point that they're almost, the words is, kiloi chashav. Kiloi chashav. God doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But legabe, the higher level of reality, if you could see take a musician, reading musical notes. I can't read music. I see musical notes. What do I see? I see black lines. That's what I see. I'll say, this black line is this shape, that shape goes up, goes. When the musician sees it, what does he see? He starts hearing music, and you start seeing he's smiling, and in his mind he's already playing a song. So you say, do you see the black lines? Yeah, that's what Metzius. But that's not the Nakuda. That's not the definition of Metzius. The definition of Metzius is the music. The architect walks into a house. I walk into a house, I see there's a wall, there's another wall, there's another wall. Yeah. He sees this from architect's perspective. So the higher one's Metzius expands, very often what's Metzius on a lower level becomes insignificant as a Metzius, as a strong, powerful reality that has a hold on you. Like with food, the more refined I become, I look at this potato chip or this kugel and it's like, this you call food? It's like eating a bookcase. I mean, you can eat a bookcase if you're desperate, I guess. I don't know, I never tried, but you could try. What do you mean? Well, yesterday it was everything. This is what you were looking forward for. This is what your taiva is. Yeah, people who are in the world of addiction, for example, like they're looking forward the next high, and then for another person, this is Metzius. It's like, not that it doesn't exist, it exists. But every world means another type of Metzius. You go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. But that's his point. You come to the highest world, it's all Shem Havaya, because Shem Havaya is the DNA of every type of Metzius. from the highest to the lowest, from the most spiritual to the most physical. But that name suddenly loses its metzius when you're talking about Hashem himself, who transcends every definition of metzius. So in any world, he says, Einon mitfasim etzle begeder metzius klal. Those are the key words. What do you mean it's not? He made it. What do you mean it's not a metzius by him? You made this. So it's not. By you, it's eshta metzius. Einon mitfasim etzle begeder metzius klal. Just like everybody understands, or not everybody understands, the deeper we study the world, that which yesterday is the strongest metzius is actually a metzius that's the poorest, the most impoverished definition of metzius, that only comes through many filters and many kelim. And real sophisticated language, you must go to a different type of language in order to discuss metzius. The deeper you go to Ein Sof, and the deeper you go to the source, everything is not begeder metzius. Yeah. So Mela Shem Havaye says the whole name is not Shayach. Not that it doesn't exist. Of course it exists. He made it. And that's prayer Ani Hashem Lo Shonisi, or Atu At Shaloi Nivroilam Atu Achash Nivram. You're the same. What do you mean you're the same? Because it's not pshat. It becomes a metzius, and therefore you say you went through a change and something happened. If it's not begeder metzius, if it's kula kamei kaloi chashiv, so b'meila it didn't make a shinui. So because it didn't make a shinui, so the whole Shem Havayi says you cannot say this Shem. That says Yehalelu Hashem Hashem ki nizgov shmoi levadoi hoidoi al eretz v'shamayim. The whole eretz v'shamayim is what? Hoidoi, the ziv. It's a ziv of his name. At sheloi nivra olam hayahu shmoi belvad. He and his name were levad. In other words, even his name was completely subsumed in his essence, so it was levad. Because not like Shem Havaya is a new thing. Hashem is also Shem Havaya. Shem Havaya is his name. But the way Hashem Havaya is pre-creation is in a way of levad. Meaning it's the whole potential for every metzius is there, including the table, including the horse's fence. But pre-creation, the Shem is completely subsumed in the him. There's no separate metzius. And therefore there's no metzius outside of that, which we don't even call metzius. What's the metzius of God? It's counterintuitive. When you grow up in the world, God would prove him. Prove that he exists. I can't see God. I can't feel him. I can't touch him. I can't taste him. I can't smell him. I don't hear his sounds. Yeah? So does... Rabbi Yitzchak of Badicheva has a song. It's called Adudala. So he says, Ribono Shaloylam. Ribono Shaloylam. Ayem Tza'eka. Where am I going to find you? Where will I not find you? Where can I find you? And where can I not find you? Where am I going to find you? Where? And where am I not going to find you? From a deeper perspective, as Metzius evolves, it becomes exactly the other way around. The divine is the only reality. Everything else is just a filtered manifestation of reality. It's the divine for allowing for the physical creature to be able to experience reality from his or her limited perspective. Just like for the child, the fire engine is reality. For the adult, the money becomes far more significant reality and the fire engine becomes a joke. For the great physicist, the physical that you can touch is just a very compromised version of reality. And I'm actually looking for the intangible that you can't touch and you can't see. And the less you can see it, it means the more it's real. Because if you could see it, it already means it's filtered so heavily that my eyes could see it. So what do you think you're seeing already? You're seeing the most outer version of reality. Do me a favor, leave me alone. Don't go there. And when they talk, you say, but it'll be like a mockery, yeah? There was once a debate in Dvinsk. There were two Rabbanim, the Rakachava God and the Meir Simcha of Dvinsk. The Ur Sameach or Meir Simcha HaKayin of Dvinsk and the Rakachava. So there was a debate in Shul, Chassidim, the Mishnah, where is Gressa? Who's bigger? Okay. So there was a kid there for 2 hours. You know how Jews debate, who's bigger? So there's a kid, he's laughing. Say, what's lachsto? Everybody knew the Rakachava was small and frail and skinny and short, and the Meir Simcha was much more robust. She says, you're debating for 2 hours, wer is größer, who's bigger? We all know Rabbi Simcha is a lot bigger than the Rogatchover. They said, no, we don't mean bigger. We mean bigger. Oh, now you're lying. You said bigger. Bigger means bigger. No, is he right? Of course, big means big. For them, they weren't even thinking that Rogatchover is bigger means he has a bigger body. Who's right? Yeah. You're sitting at a conference of people who understand a little about physics. I'm just giving this mashal because you see it even in the secular world, yeah? And they'll start talking about subatomic particles. And you'll get up and you'll say, sorry, you guys are crazy. I never saw it. It's not like they're going to debate you. It's like, if you would have seen it, then don't bring it up. What people see is really not the issue because that means it's not reality. It's reality the way my retina and my brain interprets reality, which is fine. If you have to sell a bottle of milk, don't sell subatomic particles. If you're going to write, I'm selling subatomic particles, I don't know how much money you're going to get. It's a bottle of milk because there's something called Olam HaAsiyah. But Legabi Olam HaYetzirah, yeah, that Metzias is a very limited form of Metzias. And Legabi Bria and Legabi Atzilus, says the Alter Rebbe, but even Legabi Atzilus, that's all over there, there's Shem Havaya, because there's Metzias, whatever Metzias is. Ruchni is Alakus. Gabi Hashem Bechvoide Be'atzis Bechal not Begeder Metzias. The Chiddush of Chana was, the first time in Tanakh, Vatespalel Chana, Al Havaya. Chana's davening went to a place, not lehavaya, el havaya, al havaya, above havaya. Not atzilus, al havaya. Okay. Yeah. Ubache sifke. And that's what transformed her from an akara who didn't have children into the person who gave birth to Shmuel Hanavi, about whom it says, Moshe v'Aaron b'chayanav, Shmuel b'kayre shmai, as we say tonight. Moshe v'Aaron b'chayanav, Shmuel b'kayre shmai, as he will continue in the Maimon. Mivedzen weiter. The next year will be Monday morning, Be'ezer Hashem Bli Neder. For Shabbos I'm here, but Sunday I'm in Florida for an Asiyim Sefer Torah, so the next year will be Monday morning. Everybody have a wonderful Shabbos. We'll continue now with the Gemara. Daytona. Yeah. Thank you. Good question. Good Shaila. The frag is good. We'll see the next piece in the Maimer. You're saying, where does this leave us? It just means so we're nothing, so we're worthless, so we don't change. It's like you'll tell your wife or your child, you impact me nothing. Whatever you do, you're not even a Metzias. So it's very, but not the real thing. Not something that can... right. Okay. Very good question. We'll see the next shtickle. That's what is... Yeah. I don't know, answers. Addresses. Answers. Don't push it. Addresses. But it's a very rich concept, right? Eine nitfes beged Metzias. What we call Metzias is...
The subatomic particles are also well in Asiyah, right?
Of course. All the examples of science and physics is all Asiyah. It's not Yetzirah. They'll get there. A physicist wrote recently an article, not Jewish. He wrote that in a few decades, when they're going to want to talk about physics, they're going to have to employ spiritual language. The scientific language is not going to work anymore.
When I was 20, somebody asked me what kind of engineer you want to be. I said, engineer of the soul.
Yeah. What's Pshat Geula? What's Pshat Geula? Geula is the Aleph in the Goyla. What means the Aleph in the Goyla? Geula is not a separate thing. It's the Aleph in Goyla. So it says in Medrash. In other words, when you look at something, you ask one question. What's the divine energy of it? Right? What's the divine energy? If you can understand halacha that way, that's really what halacha is. Halacha is identifying something from its divine perspective. It's really an X-ray of the soul of something. So really halacha is very, very sophisticated physics. The highest level of physics. Tumma and Tara even more. Tumma and Tara is the deepest, yeah. That's why if you don't understand this, you read the Gemara and all that, it's very strange, it's archaic. It looks like weird stuff. Because it's like, what are you talking about? You have to really expand your vision of reality.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.